Hello, good morning, students. Good morning, fun friends. My name is Esther Okiri, and I remain your favorite English teacher. All right, so we'll be continuing from where we stopped in our previous lesson. Kindly recall that previously we learned clauses and their types, and we said that a clause is a group of words that has a subject and a final verb. Yeah, we're also saying that a clause might be meaningful or might not be meaningful, and that's why we have dependent clauses and independent clauses. So today we want to look at the dependent clauses and their types. Recall, a dependent clause is that clause that has a subject, it has a verb, a finite verb, but then again, it does not make sense on its own. It does not translate any meaning on its own until it leans on the main clause, yeah? And then the main clause helps it to become what? Meaningful. Now, there are three major types of dependent clauses, and these dependent clauses are noun clause, adjectival clause, and we have the adverbial clause. I'll take that again. Noun clause, adjectival clause, and we have the adverbial. So noun clause. Noun clause functioning as dependent, noun-dependent clauses now. These are clauses that functions as a noun. They act as a subject. Recall we have looked at what a subject is previously. They act as a subject, they act as an object, or they act as a complement. Now, noun clause would answer to the question who or what. Noun clause would answer to the question who or what. Now, example of noun clause can be what he said was interesting. What he said was interesting. Now, the noun clause in this is what he said. Also, to know a noun clause, another way to know or identify a noun clause is to remove that dependent clause and replace it with something or someone. So we can remove that dependent clause and place it with what? Something or someone, and then it will still make sense. Now let us look at an example. What he said was interesting. Now if we remove what he said and we replace it with something, it becomes sensible. So we say something is interesting or something was interesting. Yeah? So noun clause can be replaced with something or someone. When you take out the clause and you replace it with something or someone, it makes sense. Another example becomes whoever was invited is lucky. Whoever was invited is lucky. Now, whoever was invited, that has a subject, it has a verb. That is where the noun clause is. That is the dependent clause that has what? The noun clause. Remove it. Now replace it with what? Someone. Again, we'll have someone is lucky. Someone is lucky. I'll take it again. A noun clause is that clause that functions as a noun. It can function as an object. It can function as a subject. It can function as a complement of a sentence. It must answer the question who or what, can be replaced with someone or something. Now, adjectival clauses, on the other hand, are those clauses that function as an adjective. I take that again. Adjectival clauses, on the other hand, are those clauses that function as an adjective. They give more meanings to nouns. Adjectival clauses must always be introduced by a relative pronoun. They must be introduced by relative pronouns like who, that, which, whom. Yes, adjectival clauses must be introduced by relative pronouns. Example, the book that I borrowed is interesting. The book that I borrowed is interesting. Now, adjectival clauses will answer the question which. In this example, the question becomes which book is interesting? That which I borrowed. So that which I borrowed becomes your adjectival clause. That which I borrowed. Now, my car, which is a Honda, needs a new tire. My car, which is a Honda, needs a new tire. Again, the question becomes, which car needs a new tire? So we'll say that which is a Honda. That which is a Honda. So in this sentence, the adjectival clause becomes which is a Honda. Recall, adjectival clauses they would always give more meaning to a noun in a sentence. So my car, which is a Honda, needs a new tire. Which is a Honda is giving more meaning to what? The noun car. It is modifying the noun car. Adjectival clauses must always answer to the question which. I take that again. Adjectival clauses must always answer to the question which. And finally, the third kind of clause becomes the adverbial clauses. Adverbial clauses, these are clauses that modifies verbs. They tell you more about time. They tell you more about places. They tell you more about how actions are done. Yeah, why, reasons. That's why we have various types of adverbs: adverb of time, adverb of manner, adverb of reason, adverb of degree. Yeah, adverb of frequency. Example becomes I didn't go because I was tired. I didn't go because I was tired. Now, the question is why? Why didn't I go? Answer becomes because I was tired. So because I was tired now is an adverbial clause. Now, what kind of clause is this? It definitely is an adverbial clause of what? Reason. Okay. Now, I hope that you have a bit more of an understanding of what dependent clauses are and how dependent clauses can function. Recall, dependent clauses can function either as clauses can function as a noun clause. It can function as an adjectival clause. It can also function as an adverbial clause. When it is functioning as a noun clause, it would answer the question who or what, and this can be replaced by someone or something. Now, adjectival clauses, on the other hand, gives more meaning to nouns. They give more, they modify nouns. So adjectival clauses must always be introduced with relative pronouns: who, what, that, etc. Then we have adverbial clauses. These clauses, they modify time, they modify places, they modify degree. They give you more about, they tell you more about how actions were carried out, where actions were carried out, how often actions were carried out, to what extent actions were carried out. I hope with this we can do more with grammatical name and function. Thank you so much and have a good day. I remain your favorite English teacher. Bye.